I'd like to welcome our first speaker, which is Ožbej Peterle. Your talk will be about Blaufränkisch, the new beginning. Ožbej, welcome to the stage. So, what is the new beginning? So I'll leave you the stage. I'll take off and off you go.
Robert, thank you very much. It's great to be here. First of all, I'd like to thank you, KŠMT, for the invitation. Also, thank you, Guillaume, and to the whole crew. We have already started yesterday at Repouche, and we had a great dinner with amazing wines as well. And hopefully today we will continue. Just one second. So, yeah, frankinja, Modra frankinja, the new beginning is the title of my presentation. In order to define the new beginning, one should define where is the starting point of the development. So, since Moran already explained something about Slovenia as a wine country, and with all the foreign guests coming here, actually I will also delve into the Slovenia as a wine country. And then, of course, we'll focus on Modra frankinja as a grape variety. And then, of course, also finish with what had happened in the last 10 years and what also can be achieved. So this is going to be a brief presentation. It's working. Yeah. Robert, you probably know this slide. So Slovenia is a wine country. As you know, that we have, it's divided in 3 different regions. So in the western part, we have so-called, it's a Primorska wine region, which literally means at the sea. We have 4 districts in the Primorska. So we have Goriška Brda, Vipava Valley, Karst, and Slovenska Istra. But then for Modra frankinja, most important, of course, is the eastern part of Slovenia. So we have Podravje and we have Posavje wine regions. Both are named after the rivers which are flowing into in the region. So, and then the Podravje region is divided by Prekmurje and Štajerska. And of course, Posavje, where we are now, is divided by Bizeljsko-Sremič, Dolenjska, and Bela Krajina. So, as it was said before, we have roughly around 15,000 hectares. This data is a bit old now. So we are below 15,000 hectares in Slovenia, at least what is officially registered. We have 51, I think it's already 53 grape varieties which are allowed. And as it was said before, 70% is white wine, 30% is red wine. You can see the chart of grape varieties which are produced in Slovenia. What is funny or interesting for me, that's among top 5 grape varieties, there are 3 grape varieties which you cannot usually find bottled as a single varietal. So you cannot find Žamet Černina, it's super difficult to find Laški Riesling, and actually, you see Modra frankinja, it has the new beginning, so it's a bit different with Modra frankinja. What it's also super important about Slovenia is the other thing. So we have 15,000 hectares, but we have 30,000 grape growers and winemakers. So if you divide 15,000 versus 30, it's 0.5 hectares of vineyard per wine grower. And the majority of those wine growers, they also produce wine, but only 2,500 actually bottle wine as well. Why I'm saying this, which this means that in Slovenia, wine is super incorporated in our culture, way of living. We drink around 40 liters of wine per year. So it's really a thing which is, well, part of our culture. And Modra frankinja as well. Yeah, in terms of the regions, as I said before, we have around roughly 6,300 from Podravje. Then we have a bit bigger, it's Primorska with 6,400. And Posavje is the smallest with 2,500 hectares, where we are now. Exactly. So all in all, we produce between 80 and 90 million liters per year. So this is the, well, last season was super sad, I mean, super bad. We only produced, I mean, it was like 30% less, 20% less of that. But usually it's roughly, this is the number of liters we produce in Slovenia. Okay, just since we are in Posavje, and this is the most important region for Modra frankinja in Slovenia. So it's divided by Dolenjska, Bizeljsko-Sremič, and Bela Krajina. As you can see, Bela Krajina is the smallest district in Slovenia with 340 hectares. Bizeljsko-Sremič, roughly 800, and then Dolenjska with 1,500 hectares. So these are the main producers of Blaufränkisch in Slovenia, as we will see later. Okay, and then finally move to Modra frankinja in Europe. So this grape variety, among red varieties in the world, it's roughly around 25th place in terms of the hectares planted in the world. So all in all, it's around 50th place in terms of white and red grape varieties. As you can see here, so in Europe, we have around 18,000 hectares. And as you can see, Hungary is by far the biggest. So we have around 8,000 hectares in Hungary. Following, actually, afterwards is Austria with 3,200, and then we have Germany, 1,900, and Slovakia, a bit less. And Slovenia, as you can see here, it's actually among the smallest ones. So we have now 632 hectares. It was registered last year. But you can also find frankinja in Romania, in Italy as well, in Bulgaria, but also outside Europe, as you probably know. It grows in Australia, it grows in US, it grows in Peru, so it's actually, but Europe is the main core of this grape variety. And this is data for Slovenia, all in all, so how much of the Blaufränkisch we have in Slovenia in terms of the hectares per vineyard. So I got data from 2004 to 2020. So we have this kind of growth in the beginning and then more or less stagnated at 700 hectares of vineyards. And then there's a slow decline, but I think this will actually probably get back to the normal 700. Why I think it's also important, when I mentioned before 30,000 grape producers. As you have seen, the area of vineyards in Slovenia is slowly declining. So all the small producers, which are mostly based in Štajerska and Posavje region, so which means that those who have actually the majority of frankinja, they are pretty old. The average age of Slovenian wine grower is 65 years. So it's kind of a quite difficult field. So when this looks like that actually is stagnating, you have to consider that the overall area is declining. So which means that frankinja is doing Slovenia in that regard quite all right. Of course, and now we have divided vineyard area by the district, as you can see. So Dolenjska is the most important, obviously, with more than 250 hectares of frankinja, followed by Bizeljsko, which is the same as Štajerska. There was no frankinja in Prekmurje back in 2000, but now they have 16 hectares, so there's a change. And Bela Krajina, it's kind of stagnating, but the problem with Bela Krajina is like from year to year they're actually losing vineyard area because people are, the average size of a vineyard in Bela Krajina is 0.23 of a hectare. So it's super small, it's super difficult to maintain, especially if you look at the economic terms of that as well. All right, Modra frankinja in terms of liters. So as you can see, we have lousy 2010 and 2014 vintage, and 21 was, quite bad as well. But overall, you can see the growth in production. And one more thing about frankinja, actually, the thing is that, like 20 years ago, you couldn't find, it was super difficult to find more than one single frankinja in the store. Nowadays, we have between 10 and 15 different single varietals in the store, which means that Blaufränkisch, Modra frankinja is a grape variety which is used in blends in Slovenia. So we have the regional blends like Cviček, like Bizeljčan, Belokranjčan, or Metliška Črnina, in Bela Krajina. So the majority of grape variety is actually produced in blends, and it's not actually as a single variety. So you can see the same thing in terms of the liters by district. But then, of course, not to spend too much time on the data, this is the core of the presentation, the new beginning. So what is good about this grape variety, as Robert said before already? It's something new, but first of all, let's start from the beginning. This is a grape variety which has potential for producing high quality wine. I think this is super important, so we have high quality grape variety. What is also good about Posavje and Slovenia as such, we have great terroir for this grape variety in order to flourish, to have like really good examples of that. Then the other thing is, yesterday we tried 12 to 15 different frankinjas. You could see that each bottle has each unique story to tell, which means that it's a grape variety where the terroir, it's actually expressed in a different way, which I think is also super nice in this regard. Then the fourth thing, which I think it should be expressed more and more. So when I did my diploma thesis for the Wine Academy in Austria, so I had a simple questionnaire. So I asked Slovenian wine connoisseurs and experts like only 3 simple questions. So the first question was, what is good about Slovenian wine sector? The second one, what is bad? And the third one, what we have to do in order to make things better. And so the answer for the second question, what is bad, was like there is no cooperation within the sector among wine producers. Everyone hates everyone, so it's a super disaster kind of sector. But what I like here in this Modra frankinja project, which is lasting now for 12th year, there's a cooperation between Sevnica. There's a cooperation between wine producers, between restaurants, between Slovenian Tourist Board as well. So I think universities, sommeliers, so I think this is a super good example of how one group of people with common idea and vision can work together and get things moving, which I think is super, super good. On the other hand, so Robert Gorek, he was the president of the commission, the judging table 2 weeks ago. So we can see that frankinja can succeed in different shapes and forms. So it can be a sparkling wine, it can be a nice rosé wine, it can be light red, full-bodied red. I mean, it has a lot of different things to offer, which I think is good as well. One more thing about Posavje, like the quality increase in the last 20 years is just enormous, you know, which I think is another good thing that actually people are investing time, knowledge, and energy to this project. So as was said before, so Blaufränkisch, you know, ABC, anything but Chardonnay or Cabernet Sauvignon, so there's something new to offer. It's a trendy kind of grape variety, which I think is also cool. So room for improvement. To conclude slowly, there's always place how to be better. And first of all, yes, as we were talking with different wine producers, frankinja was sometimes planted maybe not on the best sites. So I mean plots. So I think that more research can be done in terms of clone selection as well as in terms of where frankinja should be planted in the vineyard. So there's definitely room for improvement in that regard. Viticulture, of course, the classic system in terms of what could be better. Also, sometimes I was talking to Klemen Lisek, he's in charge of the KIS, so Slovenian Agricultural Institute, and he said that there's a lot of really good wine produced in the beginning, but because of the, I don't know, bad oak or like, well, I mean, not the best winemaking techniques, then the frankinja doesn't come out as it should. So it's also in terms of what winemakers are doing in the cellar, it's another, like also in terms of investments in new technologies, is actually another thing to improve. In search of the style, I think it's difficult to say that we already have a specific style of Slovenian Blaufränkisch or let's say Posavje and Blaufränkisch. I think it's too early to tell, but I think in the long run maybe it's not a bad idea to have kind of recognizable style, which is also recognized outside Slovenia. So and the last thing, yeah, it's a bit provocative, obviously, if you're guys sincere from Posavje, but why not also having Modra frankinja in Primorska region? Is it a blasphemy, or actually you think it could add to the story of Modra frankinja in Slovenia as well as outside Slovenia? So Primož Lavrenčič has planted 0.4 of, so like 40 Rs, less than half of the hectare. But I think it's worth considering if we spread frankinja also to the western part of Slovenia in order to boost the whole story of frankinja, because it's the grape variety, and as well as I think the producers deserve that, and that this should be a next, excuse me, a next successful story of Slovenia. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, before we move to the next speaker, is there any question for Ožbej maybe? At the moment, we'll have discussion at the beginning, at the end. But if there is a question now, we can. Yes, please. Well, can we get another mic, please? So I'll move this one to the. Yes, can you repeat that, please?
Are there already some experience growing Blaufränkisch in the Primorska?
So what Primož does, actually, he uses the Blaufränkisch for a blend with Refoško and with Pokalca, with Scorpetino. So it's he doesn't do it as a single varietal, but I think back in the days, frankinja was also actually present in that part of the world, if I'm not mistaken. Robert, you did the
History book says it was good. It could be bottled. It was that good. Yeah. So that was what history said. Yeah. In fact, Blaufränkisch was in Slovenia kind of in the shadow until 2016, when it was recognized as Slovenian, which will be challenged later that day here in Slovenia. But yes, so. But I think one of the valid question is about the style. What is the proper style? Which I think David will tell us more about. Unless there is another question. Yes, Guillaume. If you get it on, then...
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's not a question, just a comment on the Blaufränkisch in Primorska. And to respond to Ferdinand. Yes, and for me it's a complete nonsense that this variety is not allowed to be planted in that part, especially when you see that you have Pinot Noir Merlot, so you have between Pinot Noir and Cabernet Sauvignon, and then you cannot officially plant Blaufränkisch, which for me, especially if you go to Vipava Valley and the upper valley, which is slightly cooler, very stony, very draining, lot of flesh. I think it's a beautiful terroir for Blaufränkisch. You mentioned Primorsk, but there is other producers that started to plant for the last few years some Blaufränkisch. So it's, I really hope that the thing will be pushed forward. Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think we had the refreshment of grape varieties just beginning of this year. Is that correct? In Slovenia, and it didn't happen. So to include Blaufränkisch.